All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Groman. I'm from IBM. I lead our technical sales organization worldwide, focused on our cloud integration products. And I appreciate you joining me here today. I always love coming back to San Francisco, beautiful city. I live across the country in Charlotte, North Carolina, but been doing a lot of work with Salesforce recently, and I think this is my third trip here in the last couple months. So always good to be back. What I wanted to talk about today is our portfolio of offerings focused on the integration space, where we can accelerate your integration projects by using low coding and no coding tooling from IBM, specifically on a product we call App Connect. We have obviously a broad array of integration solutions today, but today we're going to focus on App Connect, and I'm going to show you a pretty extensive live demo. So how many here have done live demos before? All right, so you all know what I'm feeling right now, but I think we'll be good. I've run through it like 12 times today, so we'll see what happens. So just a quick disclaimer chart. I may mention a few things that are currently forthcoming. Nothing in the too distant future, but obviously, like anything, plans can change at our sole discretion, etc. So the lawyers make me show this. So what am I going to show? First, I want to spend just 2 minutes or so talking about the new partnership that IBM and Salesforce recently announced that we're very excited about, and the nature of that partnership. You'll probably see a couple of sessions here today. We had one earlier on Watson and our data science offerings. We have one immediately following this on weather integration. I recommend you attend those sessions. Obviously, this session is going to focus on the integration component of that partnership. And then we'll get into that demo of that cloud integration for Salesforce. So 2 quick sections that we'll focus on. So back in March, we announced this partnership. I was at Interconnect a week or 2 after this, which is IBM's big cloud conference in Vegas every year, where Mark Benioff and Ginny Rometty were up on the main stage talking about this partnership, and it's really exciting. So global strategic partnership, bringing together the leader in cloud and cognitive computing, where IBM is focusing its efforts these days, with obviously Salesforce, the world's #1 CRM company. So there are 4 main areas of this partnership that we talk about. The first is bringing together the power of Einstein and Watson, right, where Einstein can focus on the AI capabilities of harnessing your data running in the Salesforce cloud, and combine that with Watson, which has the ability to analyze everything else, right? So bringing insights from weather data, bringing insights from news, from market analysis, etc., and bringing those 2 leading AI engines and having them work closely together to access both data on the Salesforce CRM cloud and data on-premise, and having those work hand in hand. So we're very excited about bringing those leading AI technologies together. That's a key part of this partnership. The next is focused on weather. So IBM purchased the weather company about a year ago, maybe 18 months. And that's not the Weather Channel, but it's the Weather Company, and it's their big data cloud. So all that runs in IBM data centers now. And so we have access to those millions and billions and trillions of data points of weather. And we can now integrate that quickly and easily into the Salesforce platform. Right? Imagine an insurance company that wants to understand how a pending weather event might affect policyholders, and proactively reach out to them to try to minimize claim damage. Things like that really bring weather insights to the power of Salesforce. It's a real exciting second tenet of this partnership. The third is cloud integration. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, a portfolio of offerings to make it very, very simple and easy to integrate your Salesforce experience with on-premise data. From low coding and no coding approaches that I'll touch on today, to the most advanced, complicated integration scenarios you might have. We also announced a new feature on our MQ messaging infrastructure to do a direct bridging from platform events and push topics to streaming APIs in Salesforce, so we can plug that directly into your messaging infrastructure now. So like I said, there's a number of ways that we can bring your Salesforce data and unite that with your on-premise data using the cloud integration for Salesforce from IBM. And then the fourth and very important component is Bluewolf. So this is another acquisition IBM made last year. Bluewolf, if you're not aware of them, they're the leading SI, system integrator for Salesforce and have been since the very beginning. They have fantastic methodology really understand how to implement Salesforce and make it successful for your organization. So Blue Wolf is now part of our global business services unit, and all those consultants now can unite these other offerings around Einstein and Watson, around weather, and around integration, and bring those to your Salesforce implementation projects. So those are the 4 key elements of the partnership, and like I said, we're very excited about that partnership. So that's my setup. Now let's get into the demo. So like I said, I'm going to focus on one specific product today. It's called IBM App Connect. There's really 4 tenets to this application that we talk about. Its ability to quickly connect myriad SaaS properties, quickly and easily transform that data as it flows to the integration. Right? Everything is configuration-based, right? So there's very low coding. And of course, you can manage those runtimes on an ongoing basis. You see here a very small subset of some of the connectors that we have available in App Connect today, and we are rapidly expanding the portfolio on the designer experience that you'll see here today. So what am I going to do in this demo? So the concept is a customer calls up an organization and registers a complaint. That will be logged in Salesforce Service Cloud as a new case. What we want that to do is trigger off an integration that will eventually notify the seller. Right, so that seller can be notified immediately that a new complaint has been registered. Right, but what we want to do is inject that notification with some cognitive analysis. Right, so we'll feed through a couple of different systems. I'm really going to throw a lot of stuff on the wall here. So you'll see all the different kinds of technologies that we can plug into. And I hope you're as excited about this as I am. So what am I going to do specifically? Right, so customer registers a complaint into Salesforce, creates a new case. We're going to go off to SAP and fetch some order history. We're going to go off to Lucy, which is a third-party cognitive service from Equals3 that can do some latest market analysis on what that customer is currently doing in the field. We'll plug into our Watson tone analysis service, right? So we can understand the tone of the complaint. Maybe it was a compliment. Maybe they're upset. We'll see. We'll then package all that up and throw it in a box file just to demonstrate that we can have such integration. I'll go back and update the case in Salesforce with a summary of that Watson tone analysis and a link to that box file so somebody from the case can quickly and easily get to it. And then finally, we're going to send a message off to the seller through the Chatter API. Now, in order to do that, I'm using OpenWhisk, which is the open source-based serverless compute environment that we have running on IBM BlueMix. And in order to send that message to OpenWhisk, I'm using Message Hub, which is an Apache Kafka-based messaging service also running on BlueMix. All right, everybody follow me through that? There's a lot. I know. And we're going to do it. I got 22 minutes. No worries. OK. All right, so I'm logged in here to App Connect. Right? I actually have this flow running already, and this will be the one that I actually exercise. But I'm going to recreate this flow from scratch so you can see how it was done. So I click New. We actually have the ability to do 2 things within App Connect. I can create an event action flow, which is basically what it describes. So monitor a system, recognize an event, and then do a series of actions based on that event. Right? Think of it like if this, then that for business. That's really the flow that we're doing through here. But we also have the ability to create APIs. So all of the SaaS properties that we have available as connectors in this product can be packaged and mixed up and bundled and jumbled, and then you can produce your own API using those connectors. So very simple, intuitive tooling. I'm not going to dive into that today. If any of you would like to see the APIs live, feel free to come up and talk to me after the session. I'd be happy to give you a personal demo. But we'll do the event-driven flow here. So we'll just give it a quick name of the live demo. So now you see here the list of connectors that I can use as the event to trigger a new flow. Right? Specifically, I want to drill into Salesforce. Now, I already have my account IDs pre-logged in. If it wasn't here, I would just say connect it, type in my username, password via OAuth. It all gets registered and saved. It's super simple. But I only have 20 minutes, so I had to cut something. So we'll trigger on new case. So when a new case arrives, what are the actions that I'm going to exercise? Once again, I have a list of applications that I can connect to. Right? I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to Salesforce to retrieve a little bit more information. Specifically for this case, I want to get more details on the account because I'm going to use that on subsequent lookups. So I click Retrieve Account. It gives me a couple pop-ups here of basically the where clause on what I'm going to fetch, right? And so I can look up on these different fields. I'm going to use the account ID, right, and what it equals. Now, this little pop-up here allows me to reference any of the previous calls that were made and gives me quick access to the fields that came in, right? So I'm going to use the account ID here. So when account ID equals account ID, go off and retrieve that account. The next thing I'll do is retrieve the order history from SAP. So once again, I scroll through my list of connectors. I find SAP. I already have this set up. Here you see a couple of the objects in SAP that we've exposed here via OData into App Connect. And I will say retrieve sales orders. Again, it's dynamically talking to my SAP environment to see what objects are available and what fields are available to me on which I can query. So I'm going to say where the sold to party is equal to, now I used the pop-up last time, but notice I can just quick type and it gives me a pop-up here of the fields that match what I type. So I'm going to use the account site that came in from that account I just retrieved. Now the next step is to plug into Watson. Okay, so I'm going to go off and I'm going to retrieve the Watson tone analysis, right? So you see a couple of Watson services available here. These will be showing up in production in a couple of weeks. I'm using a demo site here so I could get access to it for today. But I'll say get tone analysis. And some of this will be cleaned up a little bit when it shows up in production. Now the text that I want to search on, right? I want to analyze the tone of the content that came in the case, right? So I'll type in the subject that came from the case, as well as the description. So whatever I fill into that subject and description at the end of the demo, that's what we're going to do the tone analysis on. Now a little bit on Watson for a second. So you can go off and you can access these kinds of quick and easy tools so you can learn a little bit more about these Watson services we have available. Like I said, I'm just focusing on the tone analyzer today. But you can come in here and say, OK, so this is the complaint he's going to register. Nothing is working. This is ridiculous. So when I click Analyze, Watson gives me back his analysis of the emotion, of the language style, and the social tendencies of the text that was analyzed. Right? So we see that that was a very angry complaint that this customer registered. Right? To get to a slightly more technical level, I can come over here to this other tone analyzer tool we have and the API Explorer. So I can come into the actual get API that will be executed. And I'm doing this because I want to show you the actual JSON message that's going to Watson and coming back from Watson. Right? So we can scroll down. I can type in the text. Again, nothing is working. This is ridiculous. And when I execute that, this is the JSON message that comes back. So once again, you see anger with its score, all buried within this JSON message body. All right, so let me quickly copy this and show you one other technology I'm going to introduce to you today called JSONata. Now, JSONata is an open source JSON querying language, very similar to XPath. Right? And so in order to sort the results here, I want to show how some of this syntax works really quickly. It's very simple and easy to use. This is a nice tool that they've put out on the jsonata.org, right? And I can just start typing it in. So here I can say I want to pull the document tone, right? And it shows me down below, the result of that query. I want to pull out the tone categories. All right, so now it's gone down one level more. I specifically only want the emotion tone, so I can say where the category ID is equal to emotion tone. And so now I've drilled further down, and my result set's even smaller. Right? And then I want to take let's see, what did I want to do? I think I wanted to sort it. Right? Hang on, let's see. Yeah. So I wanted to sort the tones based on the score, right? So now the highest score will be up top, and then I want to take the first one. So this will be the highest registering one, and then finally take the tone name. All right. So now building this JSONata, basically XPath query quickly and easily, I can drill down through this JSON object and just get one value back, and that's going to be the value I use back in the demo, right? Okay, so let's jump back over here and finish the demo. So before we start using those results, I did want to go off to Lucy, right? I'm going to use that third-party cognitive service here that can give me the latest market analysis on the account that I'm working with. So we'll add the Lucy request here. And I'm just going to query on the account name, right? So what's the name of the account? And then it'll ask Lucy to give me all the latest marketing information on that. Now I want to take those Lucy results and I'm going to throw them in a box file so that they can be pulled up later by the seller. So we'll click on box. We'll say create file. I'm going to give it a file name here. We'll say case dash. I want to pull in the case number so it's named uniquely. And then it's actually going to give me HTML back. So we'll name it HTML. And then just in the interest of time, I'm going to copy and paste this over. I did wrap it in an HTML tag and used a similar JSON expression to sort the results by on confidence, pull the bracket 0, which is the first entry, and then pull the result of that out, and then just wrap it in HTML. And I need to tell Box that this content is text. Let's see, what do I do next? The next thing I'll do is I'll go back and update the case with the results from Watson, as well as include a link to that box file I just created. So let's scroll down to Salesforce for my connector and tell it to update the case. All right, update or create case. So if the case didn't exist, it would create a new one, but I'm going to pass in the existing case ID, so that shouldn't be a problem. It'll just update the existing case, right? So our case ID equals case ID. So now I got a couple fields I need to populate down here. We need to pass along the origin because this is a required field. And then more importantly, I'm going to pass along the Watson tone analysis. So the tone is, here we'll go down in here. I'm going to pull out the document tone and then edit this expression and do the same, put in that JSON query I created. So we'll pull this out from here. All right. And then we want to tell them to read more at http://box.com/file. And then if I pass along the ID of that file, this will actually create a web link that will pull me into that box file. All right? OK, so that's going to basically insert this custom field on the case with the results from Watson and a link to that box file. Then the final thing I need to do is kick off this event in OpenWhisk. Right? Again, OpenWhisk is an open source serverless compute platform that IBM launched in partnership with Apache, or it's now running out on the Apache Foundation. And so we have this running in our BlueMix platform. Allows us really from App Connect to run any sort of arbitrary code. I didn't have a connector for the Chatter API in App Connect today, so I wrote some simple Node.js so that I could publish a message off to the Chatter API and get that notification pushed down to that seller. Okay, so now in order to tie into that, we are connecting through Message Hub. Again, that is a messaging service running on BlueMix. So we'll plug into Message Hub here. We'll give it the topic that we want to post it to, called New Cases. And then the payload is, I'm going to pass along the account name, registered a complaint. Tone is, right? And let's pass along, the immediate analysis from Watson as well. So this will actually show up in the message sent to the seller. OK, so that's creating the flow end to end. It took about 5 minutes. I've plugged in 10 different SaaS properties, 8 different SaaS properties. And you can see through this intuitive tooling, I could do it with very low coding, with the exception of running JSON, which hopefully you appreciate was a pretty simple querying language to pick up. So now that that's been created, the last thing we have to do is create the action on OpenWhisk. So since this is a developers conference, I didn't want to leave here without showing some actual code while using our no-coding platform. So I'm going to use OpenWhisk as my excuse to show you some code and make people happy. So the first thing that we do here is we say I'm going to create a new action. All right, so I'll call this notify chatter. All right, and then you can choose the runtime. So on our serverless platform, we support Node.js, we support Python, and we support Swift. The code I wrote was in Node, so I'll select that as the code that I want to write. And then it gives you a simple main function that you populate. Now, of course, I wrote this already. This just goes off and does a login to Salesforce, get a no-auth token, and then logs into Chatter, and then publishes a message to the Chatter API. All right, so I'll paste that, I think. All right, now I'll paste it. All right, and then you publish it. You make it live, and as simple as that, I could now actually run this action out on the Bluemix OpenWhisk platform. I can then automate it, right? So what I actually want to do is I want to save. So when when something happens, run this action in OpenWhisk. So specifically, I tied it into Message Hub, right? So I wanted to trigger on. Here, I'll just show how it works. So I'll trigger on when new cases come in. We'll give it a unique name. I tie into that Message Hub service, right? That's going to be propagating the message from App Connect over to serverless. And I'll tell it what topic to listen to and tell it that the data is JSON. All right, I'll save this configuration. And then the last thing I would do is just link the two together. So configure an invocation from feed. So when new messages arrive on new cases, execute this action. Looks like I had one defined already, so I'm not actually going to create that rule, or else it'll send me 2 notifications, and I only want 1. OK, so with that, it's all running, right? So we've got the demo running. We have OpenWhisk configured, and now it's the moment of truth. It does take like a minute or so sometimes for the notification to come through, so we'll all kind of be on the edges of our seats, or I will, as it floats through. So we'll put that on top. So this is just linked up to my iPhone here. You can see I've got the Salesforce 1 app running, and so when notifications come in, they should show up. Let me move this over. So we'll create a new case. I'm going to choose Sean Forbes from Edge Communications. So this is the person that called me to register his complaint. And what did he say? Nothing is working. This is ridiculous. Oops. Please call me immediately. All right, so this customer is upset, and we want the seller to know immediately. So when I save that, all right, so behind the scenes, App Connect, when I saved that, or when I started that flow, it actually behind the scenes goes off to Salesforce and creates the push topic automatically using the streaming APIs. So when new cases are generated, it's notified immediately, and that's what kicks off the action. So now it's going off. Oh, it worked. So hooray! So so what did it all do? It went back to Salesforce and retrieved the account. Talked to SAP. It talked to Watson. It talked to Lucy. It talked to Box. Talked to Salesforce again, and published a message to Message Hub, resulting in this chatter-based API notification. So let's take a look at what we got. Oops. OK, so we'll refresh this. We'll take a look at the case that was created. In here, I should see an update to the Watson tone analysis field, this custom field, and sure enough, it says the tone is anger, and I can read more at this box link. This was the box ID that I propagated over. All right, and sure enough, there's the ugly HTML. If I click open, it'll pop up here in Safari. And so this is the market analysis that Lucy returned on the specific account name. So now a seller can review this, have at its fingertips, the latest and greatest information, from a marketing perspective that Lucy found interesting and recommends that the seller understands. I think that was it. Yeah. So I can also, so this is my Message Hub service. This is where I had the case running, right? I can see logging here within, that shows me as messages are flowing through our Kafka-based messaging service. And then finally, I could show you the monitoring that we have for our OpenWhisk serverless platform here. This allows you to see, as actions were triggered, and get details on those logs and kind of what that looks like. So that's it. So that's what I plan to show you today. Hopefully you got a view for how quick and easy it was to put something very complicated together. And hopefully that you find a way that this applies in your scenario. Any questions? Please. What's it running on? I'm sorry, sir, I can't hear you. App Connect. Yes. That's an easy one. Anything else? How's it compare to IBM BPM? Well, so our BPM tool is obviously focused on process and workflows, right? But we did find that there's actually an awful lot of synergy between App Connect and the way it does its flows. And some of the work that they're doing on what they're calling the digital process assistant. Maybe I see my offering manager jumping up and wanting to say more. Can we have a second mic? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Yep. Oh yeah. So the question was that how does this relate to BPM?
Yep.
So for folks who don't know BPM, BPM is another integration solution by IBM. It is essentially used for process management, where you create complicated business rules. So the way this integrates with BPM is this, that you do integration here. When it comes to creating dynamic business rules, you work in BPM, and this can directly integrate with BPM. More than that, BPM is coming up with another service called Digital Business Assistance, where you build dynamic rules on the fly using a very similar UI. And the UIs, both the UIs are completely natively integrated. So you'll have Digital Business Assistance, which is beta today. It would be live very soon, probably next month, by next month. And once that is available live on Bluemix, you'll have both of these experiences natively integrated on top of each other. And you can build the integration flow here, send messages off to Digital Business Analysis, build business rules in that rules engine, and then dynamically have it make decisions and push it back to App Connect. Sorry?
Yeah, I didn't show any of that.
It is. So yes. And you build rules in BPM, DBA, and then build the flow here. So that's how it is. Sorry?
Oh.
All right. So
the question was whether we could do flow control in App Connect as well. That was one thing I didn't show. So for example, I could jump over here to this logic action, and I could say, if the tone from Watson comes back as angry, follow this flow, right? Or if it comes back as happy, follow this other flow. So yes, we can build conditional logic into it as well.
So it's limited to conditional logic yet, and then you'll have looping, and then you'll have switches and all kind of flow control in here, while you make dynamic flow controls in DBA.
See, I leave it to my offering manager to speak futures. Another question?
Right.
Yeah, can you throw the dynamic payload, or does it have to be, all we saw was like objects, right? I want a free-form JSON. And follow on, can you work with XML?
Okay. You want to take it?
Why don't you take it, Travis?
Okay, so yes, you can essentially work with any kind of JSON today. It is limited to JSON right now, but definitely XML is on the list as well. We are still in a process of building this, so yes, definitely. And you can work with any kind of JSON. But we do insist that since the worlds are going towards OData and Swagger, so Open API, so it makes much more sense to build a really good object-driven, model-driven architecture and messages. So yeah, you have a question? Okay.
Any other questions? Great, thank you for coming.
Okay. Thank you.